I hope everybody is checking their hives because right now there's such a honey flow on. We're having packages that we put in 3 weeks ago that are making tons of cells. So I would suggest everybody go through their boxes, check for cells, and start making those splits because now is the time. And Heather had a picture of hers up, and she just got packages, and they look like they need to be split 4 or 5 times. So people that say you buy a package, you can't split them, Heather can tell you she lives close by, and she is growing like crazy over there. And right now with the honey flow, you shouldn't even have to be feeding sugar. So anybody that needs sugar, we finally got our connection back. So we've got about 7,000 to 8,000 pounds right now, and we're going to go down in about 2 weeks and get another 8,000 or 10,000. We're going to try to stock up so we can keep our students sugared up.
Do you own stock in Domino?
No, I wish I did. It probably would help.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got a question if you're ready, Don.
I'm ready.
Okay, Ro, go ahead.
Yes, we just checked on our 2 packages, and the stronger hive has completely drawn the comb out in all 5 frames.
Mm-hmm.
The weaker hive, it's drawn out 3 frames completely, and they're kind of halfway working on the 2 outer edge ones. But they have done 2 queen cells in the center of the hive, right on the bottom of the center frame.
If you can, cut them off and then make some splits with them. Split from your strong hive.
They're right together. They're connected to each other. So I think we're just going to move that 1 frame into one of our mating nukes.
You can either do that or you can use a queen castle. That's where a queen castle really comes to handy.
Okay. We were thinking since they're connected, one of them is capped, and we checked them 3 days ago. They weren't there, so it might have been there, but not very big. I'm surprised it's already capped off.
Well, you need to check them in 11 to 12 days and keep an eye on them close then because you're going to have a queen come out. If you're lucky enough, you can catch one when it hatches before it gets to the other one and just move that frame again. That's what we do a lot of times when they're that close you can't separate them.
Okay, what's the time frame we should be looking at? It was how long does it take them to cap it from when they start the queen cell?
Usually around 8 to 9 days. But if you said you was in your hive 3 days ago and you didn't see any, you know, I would assume the egg or the larva is probably 4 days old. But then, you know, it's hard to say.
Okay. So from the time they cap the other one, there's a good possibility that cap one could already be out then. We shouldn't wait until they cap them both.
Usually when you start seeing cells, I tell the students to start watching 10 days, right at 10 to 11 days, start watching them pretty close because you can be off a couple days. Now, once you get the cell there, you can look at it, the structure of it, the color, and then they thin it out on the end. And when it's getting ready to come out, they'll get that end paper thin. So you can sometimes cut them then.
Okay. Do you think since they're the weaker hive and they don't have that many bees and they haven't drawn it all the way out, they're probably trying to supersede the weaker queen more than likely? Is that what one? Because the hive
being a package like that, you shouldn't have a problem with them replacing a queen. Now, you might have got in there and bumped the queen or moved the frame and rolled her a little bit. That is a thing they could have done to make another queen.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Sean, go ahead.
Hey, Don. Sean.
Hey.
Well, I've got a typical new guy question, I guess.
No typical new questions.
I put 5 packages of bees in 2 weeks ago, and I've got kept brood, larvae, and eggs. And tomorrow it's supposed to be 34 degrees at night. What are the odds that I'm not going to get chilled brood?
Well, if you got them in a 5-frame box, and you already got brood that's capped, The only thing you can do is put an entrance reducer in there and use about a 3/4 opening by 3/8 high. That helps hold the heat in. And don't put no feed on them.
All right.
You know, because right now, if you got capped brood and with a honey flow, you should have plenty of honey in there, so they're not going to starve for a day or two. You try to feed them, you're going to put moisture in there, and moisture will pull the dampness in there.
Yeah, we got plenty of rain too, so that always helps.
Yeah, that's not good this time of year.
Typical Ohio.
Yeah.
With the vent holes, should I just leave them open?
You talking about the vent holes on your feeder?
On the feeder and on the nuke box. The
nuke box itself, if you got a vent hole on that, I'd put a piece of tape over it, but I'd leave the holes open on your feeder because if you got any feed in there or moisture, it can at least vent out.
Okay. Sounds good. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Joseph Millwood, go ahead.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
I've been noticing some queen cells in 4 or 5 of my hives, but none of them have any larvae in them. Are those just like false cells, or does the queen go lay in them after they make them?
They're basically just little cups. That's the tendency of bees will do in the springtime. They'll make those cups there. But as long as you don't see a larvae in there or even royal jelly or, you know, any feed in there, I wouldn't worry about them. If it bothers you, then, you know, if you don't want a lot of hives, just take your finger and squash them, pinch them down.
Well, I'd like to split them, but I didn't know how that. I was kind of confused on how that worked because I let one swarm before, you know, because didn't get to them in time after they made them, I guess.
Well, the ones that's got the little cells in it now, are you seeing very much drone brooding there?
Yeah, a fair bit.
Okay, if you're getting a bunch of drone brooding there, they're getting ready to swarm. They might be getting full. With the honey flow like it's coming on right now, if you're not checkerboarding, we put packages in the last week in March. We put 2-pound packages in nukes, and then within 3 weeks, we double checkerboard and put them in double 5-frame deeps. And then if we're not selling them, we put them in 8 frames. Because if you don't get the honey out and checkerboard them, you know, they start, if one bee hatches out, they start backfilling with honey. And they'll make cells fast that way too, you know. Always use it to your advantage.
So those cells are, I mean, does the queen lay in them, or are they?
They'll put an egg in there. Like usually the queen's not going to actually lay in that queen cell. Usually the workers are moving them in there.
Okay, I didn't know if that's what, I was wondering how that works. So they actually will move an egg in there.
Oh yeah, they're moving. A lot of times if you're not paying attention, right at the edge of the foundation, right on the sidebar, they'll hide them there, or at the bottom corners. They'll hide them where you don't notice them. You almost have to pull each and every frame out and look at it all the way around. If you go in there every 14 days, you're going to catch the cells before they swarm on you.
All right. I appreciate it, Don.
Okay.
Okay. Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, Don.
Hey.
I want to thank you for everything you're doing here. I finally got some bees a couple of weeks ago. They was 5-frame nukes. I made a split with one of them today. I also got 2 10-frame hives off of a kind of a neighbor here. And they're pretty ornery. He's had them away from his house, I think. Hadn't really took a lot of care of them. Is there any way to get them things calmed down?
Well, sometimes you can just change out some of that foundation. If it's got old black foundation in there, sometimes that gets the bees a little irritable. That's your cheapest thing to do, is take a frame that's dark like that and do 1 frame at a time. You can either use it for making splits or just set it out in the bee yard in a box and let them rob it out and then cut it out and melt it down and try 1 sheet here and 1 sheet there. Don't try doing a lot of them at one time. A simple thing like changing foundation sometimes makes a difference. Last resort is requeen them.
Okay, well, I thank you. I just I thought maybe just working with them some would help too.
Sometimes that does. If doesn't work, you can take a frame from your Gentle Hive and pull a frame right out of the middle. That way you don't have to look real close. If it comes out of the middle, you're going to have eggs, larvae, everything that they need. And just take that frame and put it into the hive that's a little bit more irritable. If they want to replace that queen, that's the perfect time right there to do it.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Okay.
All right, back to Joseph. Go ahead.
I had an issue the last couple times I've been in my house with the bees being hot, a little bit ornery. I haven't been using a veil or any type of gear. And that a couple times ago, I actually went in, or after our last visit, I actually went in without smoke on several of them. But the other day, in the day, I had several hives that were pretty ill. And one of them, I noticed that there's a spider web kind of on the bottom of the hive stand, and I saw a bee in it with the spider, getting ready to wrap it up. Would they be making that, or you reckon there's something else going on?
Usually a spider doesn't get a hive irritable. I would kind of look around under there. Do you have lizards or little geckos, stuff like that around in your yard?
Yep. Yeah, we do. I haven't seen any around the hives, but I'm sure they're there.
That's the first thing I would check for. Go out there in the afternoon and kind of watch around there. I've seen hives that you could go out there and they was perfectly gentle, and then they get defensive when you get a gecko or those brown lizards. Sometimes the ones with those purple tails, they'll sit to the side of the hive and they'll pull a bee off every so often, landing on the board. That gets them irritable. But I don't know a spider would get them into where they're a little ill. I ran hives in South Georgia. We had black widow spiders down there, and we never seemed to bother the bees.
Is there any way to repel or reduce the lizards other than just catching them?
You might try putting some mothballs around on the ground. How high is your hive off the ground? Knee high?
Probably around knee high. Yeah, center block, a regular center block tall with a 4x4 on top.
Put you a couple of mothballs inside the cement block. 4 or 5 around that hive. The vapors should keep them away. Try that and see. That's the cheapest way to go at it.
And I'll certainly try it. Appreciate it.
Okay, Sean, go ahead.
Okay, Don, back to the cold weather stuff. Supposedly in a couple of days we're supposed to warm up again. Would feeding the brood builder help the hives out, or just go on?
I don't think being as cold as you are, I would worry about hive, brood builder right now. I would worry more about not feeding them, just as long as you have enough to get them by. You don't want to get too much moisture in there at this time of the year. Wait till your weather stabilizes a little more.
Okay. And I've noticed on some of my hive, well, actually all except for one of them, they seem to get slightly agitated with the smoke, so I haven't been smoking them.
Are you using a cloth in your smoker, or are you using pine needles?
No, I'm using pine. If I go in them without smoke, I don't get the roar, but they seem to kind of hype up a little bit once they start smelling the smoke.
When you light your smoker, do you test it for heat?
Yes.
Do you puff the smoker on your wrist, on the inside of your wrist?
I do it on the palm of my hand.
I would smoke them, put the smoke right here. It should feel cool. Sometimes if you have a smoker that's a little too hot or you're blowing out embers, that'll get them kind of agitated.
Okay.
Using cloth, years ago you could use Levi's and stuff like that, but the dyes have gotten so toxic now and other stuff that's in there. I just use pine straw, and it seems to work the best.
Yeah, I figure I just use the pine because it's free and pretty ample where I'm at.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Charles wants to know what the best kind of wood is to use for making the foundations when you're dipping in the wax and then the water.
I like oak myself. It's pine. It deteriorates too much. I usually saw my own wood out there. So red oak or white oak, it works pretty good. It'll last a lot longer.
Okay, so any kind of good hardwood then.
Hardworks does a lot better. Your pines, after probably a month or so of using it, it starts to curl on you, and the grain starts to open up on it. The hardwood, the grain stays closed and it's smoother.
All right. Paul, go ahead.
Don, how you doing? I got into the meeting a little late, so I don't know if anybody was asking these questions, but I'm up in the Albany area, and I tell you, we may even be getting snow tomorrow. And last week I put in 2 packages, and then I picked up 3 nukes. One of the nukes didn't have a queen. It had a bunch of queen cells in there, and I called up the provider. They sent me another queen. So I put the new queen in, everything went well, but on any of those hives, they're not laying any eggs. Is that due to the weather? I mean,
no, if you know, I don't like to badmouth anybody that's selling bees, but if you buy several nukes and one of the queens is dead already and you're starting to get queen cells, it kind of sounds like they're putting virgin queens in there, or they just put a cell in there and the queen might not even flew out and mated. So you have to watch where you're buying your stuff at. I try to educate people coming here. When I sell a nuke to someone, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to point out the queen walking on the frame, and I'm going to point out the larva and the eggs, everything in different stages. If the provider can't do that to you and hands you a box that's already sealed up, you're buying a pig in the poke, really. I would question the way he's doing it, or basically hand the stuff back to him. A good beekeeper is not going to do that. I try to train my students to treat people like, if you look at that nuke and it don't look good to you, if you wouldn't buy it, don't try to sell it to somebody else, because it's just going to come back to haunt you. And I don't think there's a reason you should have a dead queen in a nuke unless you're in there now. There's an exception to that now. I've seen people that buy perfectly good nukes and go out there with battle gear, all dressed up in a full bee suit with gloves that it can't even move in, and roll queens. Now that stuff there happens. But if you're in there and you got a dead queen, I would, definitely, I would put up a bitch about it.
I checked for 3 days before I made the phone call and I couldn't find her, and I didn't find any new eggs in the nuke. But regardless to that, there's not even any eggs in my packages that I installed last week. So I don't know if it's due to the weather.
Did the packages come from the same supplier?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would question if you had mated queens.
Yeah.
Right now, we're running about 2 to 3 weeks back order. I've got orders here I wish I could get out. But if my queens ain't laying sufficiently, I'm not sending queens out, because this is the same thing. You'd be talking about my bees. I got bees from him and they're not laying. Yeah. We don't put a package together, or we don't put a queen in a package to sell it unless we verify that the queen is actually laying.
That's what I'm worried about too, because it's been nothing but rain and cold weather up here. So they won't even be able to get a chance to go out and fly to mate.
Well, yeah, the longer it takes, the less chance you're going to get a good mated queen. But where you're at, you shouldn't have that problem. Joe May is in the same region up there, and he's getting queens back and they're laying. So the best thing I would say to do is get the supplier to straighten things out. You could go on my Facebook page, and I don't care myself. You can post the supplier's name on there and say that this is what's happened, and if the guy's not making it right, put it on there. Yeah. I mean, we need to separate the beekeepers out there that's going to take care of customers from the charlatans out there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'll see what happens in a couple of, maybe next week. I'm not going to go in it every day here now.
Yeah.
Week by week.
When you question him about the nukes and the condition of the queens, what was his response to that?
It was only the problem with the one nuke, and he said that he went in them 3 days ago. He didn't see any cells. I said there were capped queen cells in there.
Yeah.
Oh, but I don't know what happened to the original queen. And I mean, you know, there wasn't a problem with anything else. You know, I mean, they shipped me out a new queen. I didn't feel like taking the drive another hour and a half to go pick up another nuke.
Yeah.
You know, so. I mean, today we had a fairly decent day, and you know, every hive was busy. They were bringing pollen in. They're taking the syrup. So.
What is your temperatures right now?
Oh, Jesus, I wake up, it's like 45 degrees.
Okay. Well, I had students here today, and we went through some nukes that we had out there. It was 41 degrees here this morning. And the day before, it wasn't, you know, the night temperature was down. They went through there, and they was locating eggs, brood of different ages. So my bees was flying at 41 degrees this morning.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the temperature. I think it could be more than likely the queen wasn't mated well.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if he's reputable, he's not going to really question it. He'll hand you another queen without problem, really.
Oh, no. I mean, they shipped me another queen next day, you know. I received a new queen.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't want to go ripping through the hives every day looking for new eggs, you know.
Well, you shouldn't have to. I mean, if you got a nuke or a package, I would go in there in 7 days, and if you don't see, you know, larvae in there and eggs, then, you know, you might have a problem.
Yeah. Because with these cool temperatures, I don't want to do it. I'll be doing more damage than anything.
Right. You want to keep 55 degrees and above before you start getting in your hive.
Yeah. All right. So I'll wait another week and I'll see what happens.
Yeah. That's probably the best thing to do.
Okay.
All right.
Anthony?
All right.
Go
Thanks.
ahead. Oh, sorry, Paul. Go ahead, Anthony.
Okay. Sorry. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to share a little lesson learned that I had from last week. I'm very comfortable with my bees, so when I'm out there with them, I don't wear anything except safety glasses. I wear a light blue glass that I wear when I ride my motorcycle at night just to keep them away from my eyes, and a hat. But I was out there last week doing an inspection, and I had a frame up in my hand, and a bee flew in my mouth. It didn't sting me. I don't know how he got in my mouth, and I was able to spit it out without getting stung, but it didn't sting me. But it startled me enough to where I dropped the frame on the table beside the hive. It landed on the up on the edge. So I had about 400 angry bees flying all over the place, and I just stepped away for a few minutes. And within less than 5 minutes, they were all back on the frame, or they'd gone back in the hive, and everything calmed down, and I just went over there and finished the inspection, and it really wasn't a problem. Now, today will be the first day I go out there. It's only 7:30 in the morning here. When I finish with you guys, I'm going to go out and look at the hives, but I think I'm going to start wearing a surgical mask. That's my lesson learned, because I don't want it going in my mouth again. And another thing I made a mistake, I think, is I had a bee in my way, and I blew on that bee to get it out of the way rather than just brush it away with my finger. And they don't like it when you blow on them, right? With carbon dioxide, they react to that. Is that right?
Sometimes I blow on them. They don't, you know, bother me.
Yeah, okay. But I'm not even sure that's the same bee that went in my mouth.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to wear safety glasses and a surgical mask just so that doesn't happen again.
Sometimes it's best if you are, you know, worried about it, because if they can smell that fear on you, they're going to sting you.
Yeah.
It takes time for some people to get over that, where they can handle bees comfortable.
Well, I was very comfortable up until one flew in my mouth. And I picked up 2 more nukes on Tuesday, and they're still in the 5-frame box. In the next couple of days, I'm going to roll them in, put them in an 8-frame. But the first time I picked up the nuke, it was just one of the kids from the place, and he showed me the queen and 1 or 2 frames, and that's all I did. But this time the owner came out, the owner's wife. She's 69 years old and been playing with bees since she was a little girl. And, she really took all the frames out and showed me the larvae and the eggs and the pupa. And it's a really good looking nukes, lots of bees. So I was happy with the first one, and it took very well. They're doing fine, but these two here look like they were put together better than the first one. So, other than that, that's all I have. Just share that with everybody.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
And we're all caught up on questions right now. Everybody not doing beekeeping this week, I guess.
Well, I think Heather should tell us how she is growing from a few packages to she's about tripled in numbers. So good beekeeping practices does pay off.
Yeah, we started out with 25 packages, and I haven't done a good count, but we have probably more than 35 now. And there's a lot out there to split, but the rain got us today, and we had people come in today, and it's hard to work on when there's people calling and coming over, and so we're a little behind on splitting.
Well,
I have a question here.
Now you know why I charge $100 a day for people to help me?
Yeah.
You can't get nothing done.
No. We can't get ahead of building enough equipment.
Right.
And yeah, there's lots of queen cells out there. We've got to get out there and split tomorrow if it stops raining.
Now, you haven't found that you have a problem selling bees yet, have you?
No, I mean, we haven't. We've sold maybe 4, but we don't really want to sell right now since it's our first year.
Right. Yeah.
But so far, no, it doesn't look like we'll have a problem. We'll have a problem with other things. A lot of people want equipment, they want frames, they want this, that, along with bees. That seems like it might be a problem
Well,
at some point.
There's a lot of people that are in the same situation. You have to stay focused. I mean, if you're not doing nothing else, you can make some money building equipment.
Yeah.
But the money is doing the bees. Focus on that, and you'll stay really busy. And if you got a few extra ones you can't sell, if you don't want to advertise like on Craigslist, give me a call. I can always sell nukes for you. You know, we get people all the time that's calling. I mean, we got people coming this week and Monday picking up packages. So we'll sell packages probably longer than a lot of people do because people are getting into it every day.
Yep. I have a question too. We split a hive and we moved the original queen with a frame of brood to a different location and left behind what we were splitting. But the original queen, that hive, she's stopped laying, and it's been about 3 or 4 weeks and she still hasn't laid. So should we requeen that hive, or what should we do with it?
When you move that queen, all the field bees went back to the parent hive.
Yeah, we know that now.
Well, if there's no what you call babysitters, the queen is not going to lay. So she's only going to lay, there's enough bees in there. You might try putting her back in the original position where she was and taking the other one and putting it, reverse it. Sometimes that will help, but you never want to move the queen. Leave the queen always where it's at. If you get a cell, move the cell and then shake some extra bees from another hive into it.
Okay.
And then see, I'm surprised when you move them like that, it's being so cold, 41 degrees this morning, and a couple other days it was cold, that you don't have chill brood. If she had a lot of brood, they'd probably start hauling out larvae.
Yeah, I think they did do that at one point. Yeah.
I'm down the road. There's a phone. You can call me up if you have a question before you do something. That's all you have to do. It's easier to do that than to make them mistakes.
Yeah. We've made a couple of mistakes. Well,
it's all about learning.
It is. Yeah. That's it. Well, sometimes when we find queen cells, they'll be side by side. Would you try to cut those away from each other?
I wouldn't try cutting them if they're side by side. Maybe another year you get a little more practice at cutting them. Right now, if you have a single cell, cut you a plug out an inch or at least 3/4 of an inch wider than the actual cell. And then if you need to come over, I'll show you how to cut them out. You have to put your fingers on the back side to support that frame or the wax. Because if you take a dull knife and you try cutting one out, the flexing back and forth, like you're sawing, will flex that enough that it could damage that undeveloped queen in there.
Okay.
That's one thing that people kind of make a mistake. They just get in there with a knife, especially a serrated knife, and they just start sawing like you're sawing wood, and that frame just starts flexing in there, especially on new foundation. Once you have 3 or 4 cycles of brood in there, the cocoons build up enough that it actually will help support it. You won't get that flexing action so much.
Okay. Okay. So we should
if
just.
You got a cell, probably either cut it out or just move the whole frame to another nuke. You can move it 3 foot, 4 foot, whatever you got room, and shake another frame. You can go to another hive as long as you got the cell that's sealed. You get another frame and shake some bees from another hive to it. They'll mix. There's no queen. They won't fight.
Okay. Yeah, that was another question I had too. if the bees would fight.
Yeah. No, they won't fight.
Okay.
I mean, once you start to build nukes up, you can actually, once you learn what you're doing, you can pull a frame from 3 different hives and put it in one nuke and blend them all together, and they'll get along with a new queen.
Okay.
It just takes practice doing all that stuff.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Terry, go ahead.
Hi, Don.
Hey.
I've had a little bad luck with queens that I've ordered so far this year. I had 3 showed up about a week and a half ago, and then they were all 3 dead. They sent me new ones. They arrived, and there was only one of them alive. So, anyhow, so I was trying to get that one into the hive, into like a queen castle, and take some of the bees out of my other hive and put them with her.
With a mated queen, you're putting it in a queen castle?
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that?
Well, I guess I'm not. It's not like the little queen castle. It's like with the 2 medium frames in the box, where you split up the big frame into separate compartments.
Yeah.
So I'm putting her in there with another frame or 2 frames to try to get her started there. And while I'm going through the frames on my hive that I have, I'm pretty nervous that I'm going to put the old queen in with her. And so I'm taking my time trying to make sure she's not on there. And I'm also looking for queen cells at the same time. And I guess I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to go through the hive quickly and, not make a mistake.
Well, if you got enough nuke boxes and stuff, are you working all with mediums, or you got deep frames?
Mediums.
Okay, well, you need to get you some medium nukes, 5-frame nukes. Just build you some. I've done a video out here. It's called a 3-minute split. I mean, you could go through there. Are you running 8-frame or are you running 10-frame?
8-frame.
Well, you can go through there and pull out 6 frames, put 1 frame in each nuke box and put the lid on it and wait about, 30 seconds to a minute and just go over there slowly and lift the lid off each one slowly, one at a time. The one that's quiet is where the queen's at. And if you pull them from the parent hive, have the lid on that, lift the lid up there. If it's quiet, she's there.
Okay.
And then another thing, if you want to visually look for her, you can, instead of looking at your frame at 90 degrees, hold it off on a 45 and hold it down towards your waistline and look down across it. The queen will stand up real easy that way. See, if you look at it at 90 degrees in front of your face, like a lot of people are looking at it, it's harder to see the depth of the queen and the bees in there. So everything blends together, especially overrunning hive.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ro, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing we have, our first batch of bees from, installing, it's been long enough that the first one started emerging probably last night sometime. So we do have some brand new nurse bees in there. When we when we do the split tomorrow, we're planning to moving, same thing, we're going to put her in like a little 2-frame queen castle with, that just holds 2 mediums to a little box. And we're just going to move that frame. Do we need to wait until the second queen cell is capped before we move that frame into the queen castle?
If you got one queen cell that's capped and another one that's not capped, you can move it, but where you're at, I mean, we're going to get some cold nights. And with a package, I don't think you're going to have enough bees to shake in that to keep that cell warm.
Okay, well, we have, that's what I was saying, since we have our first batch of bees are starting to hatch out right now, just in the last day or so. We have one 5-frame package that is just loaded. It's really well stocked. It's just the one
you're going to run that chance if you get a cold night, especially if that frame's got a lot of brood. Does it have a lot of brood on it?
No, that whole box doesn't really have a lot of brood in it. It's the other box is really the one that's doing really well.
If it doesn't have a lot of brood in it, then I'd put one frame in there and shake some extra bees in it and let the field bees fly back.
Okay.
If it's got a lot of brood on it this time of the year and you're worried about cold weather, just cut you a 2-inch plug. Just cut the cell out and put it with a frame of honey and shake you some nurse bees in it. That way, all you're losing is 2 inches of bees if the weather drops on you.
These 2 queen cells are connected like that, just all the way to the top. They're connected, so
put them together.
It doesn't hurt to move it when one's still open. And
nope,
better.
Nope, ain't gonna hurt nothing.
Okay.
The one that's capped will be out the first one.
Okay. Should we do like you were showing where you shake the bees into a lid to let the nurse bees walk in and the rest fly back, or should we just shake them directly in the box?
This time of the year, I would shake them directly in the box.
Okay.
I like to do that later when it's warm outside because I want to get the oldest bees back to the parent hive so I don't lose production that way.
Okay. But we should just go ahead and just shake them directly for this one split.
And even when you shake them directly, you're still going to get a percentage is going to come back out of there and fly back to that parent hive.
Okay. And for a little 2-frame box like that, how many bees do we need to put in with that one frame if there's not much brood on it?
If you're putting them in a 2-frame box, you need to take a frame and shake it in there first, then set your framing, because if you try to shake with a 2-frame box with another frame, you're going to bump the cell.
Okay, gotcha. So we shake the bees in the box first, and then
set the frame of the cell in it, because it's kind of hard to shake in that narrow space.
Right. Do we need to leave the entrance? Do we close the entrance for a day or something, or just leave it?
If you got a 2-frame box, you more than likely don't have a regular bottom board. You got a round hole in it.
It's got a regular bottom board.
You need to reduce it down then. 3/4 wide and 3/8 high. Just enough for 2 bees to pass.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sean, go ahead.
That was my last question.
So my next question is, how soon after the queen cells should I actually start thinking about doing the split? Right when they're capped, or?
I would wait till they start to get a brown chocolate color. When you first notice them, put a notation on the top of the box when you see them, and then give it 4 or 5 days and then check it again. It should be getting dark looking, coffee colored, and then move them.
Okay.
You want to get them developed in the parent hive as long as you possibly can.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, and my co-host's daughter has a question. Go ahead.
Good one. If there was a bee from a different hive and it came into a different hive, would the other bees sense danger?
if there's a queen in the other hive and other bees come in there, they're going to protect the queen, so they'll fight the other bees off, the guard bees.
Okay.
There you go. Thanks, Tom.
That's a good question, though.
Good question.
That it, Evie?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Darlene, go ahead.
Hello, all. My mother always said, don't ask for things you really don't want, and I've been very, right. It'll come back to haunt you so fast. So here I am. I can set up 5 hives, have my lemongrass, have water feeders for all of them. I don't have any foundation. What I do have, I have some foundation. I have medium foundation. So I always said that on these chats that I'm looking into doing starter strips. So, okay, well, you know, you work with what you got. So I put a medium foundation on 8 frame hives because I have to save my 2 nukes for when I get my bees. On my 8 frames, I put a medium foundation in the middle and then cut those mediums, because I have 20 sheets of foundation, cut those in half, put them on the other side. I'm doing this by hand right now because I figure I've used a hammer before, but before I use my air tools, so I know what I'm doing. I only had to go back to 3 of the hives to go get the foundations, the half strips, that fell off a little bit. So it's a matter of, and on the new frames, when you bust off that little strip, if it's not clean and flat,
Right.
then, right. So when they get older, they'll be easier to use.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So anyway, so like I thought about my mother because I'm like thinking, okay, here we go.
Well,
I have no.
That's actually a really good point there, because a lot of people overlook that. When you snap that little wedge out, you have to lay it down on a flat surface and make sure it's absolutely, you know, clean and straight across. And then you have to get the frame and stand it up and clean it out. And then I do one additional step. I take that wedge bar and I cut off 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch on the end. That way, when you push down on it, you get full pressure. And see, if you have it original, it binds on the end and you think it's tight and the wax falls off.
That's very good. Thank you so very much. That way you could move it back and forth a little bit. You have that leeway.
Right.
And or take that bar, if you need some, cut that little sucker in half, use one over, you know.
I do things so much by natural. People pick out things that I'm doing. I had a student over here and said, why you do that? And I said, well, that's the way I always do it. He said, why? I said, because on a new frame, sometimes it binds. It feels like you're holding it down against the wax, but you're not. And it's not,
and you can't.
And the bees hang on it and it falls the wax down. So.
Oh, right. No, the bee, I don't even have any bees yet and the wax is falling.
Well, it's good it happened now that you can correct it. And then instead of standing your frame upward, lay it down on a table saw or a flat table and push down on it real hard with your thumbs. That way, if your thumbs hurt when you do some, you're doing it right. If your thumbs don't hurt, you're not putting enough pressure on it.
You want my thumbs to hurt more than my legs do or something? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I see Heather is smiling. She must have done that before.
But I'd rather know this now before I get bees.
Right.
Than, and I haven't, the scouts went away, but we're over here in East Central Alabama. Scouts went away 2 weeks ago. And maybe that's for the good, because I'm having a problem here. I also spoke with a friend of mine who has an old house out here. We're out in Millerville. We don't even have a stoplight. 2 stories up. Thank you very much. 2 stories up, underneath the eaves, for the 2nd year he has a swarm. And he just doesn't know what to do. Now, I said to him, I've watched your videos. Oh, well, we did everything, he said, but they never put a bucket on the end of a pole. They don't have a ladder tall enough. But he just, you know, the worst case scenario about the bees. And I said to him, well, maybe you ought to think about, you know, like talking to some other people because I don't have any experience, but it just seems to me that if you have bees in a swarm outside of a house up here, that you can get them. It's not impossible. It's just a matter of maybe incorporating other things.
Well,
So,
you know,
I'd really
a simple thing like taking some 5-frame nuke boxes over there and putting a little lemongrass inside the nuke box and setting them
Right.
out. Those bees are going to do what they do naturally. When they swarm, they're going to go to a nice box. And that way you don't have to climb that ladder. You don't have to use that pole. You don't have to do none of that stuff.
That's right. And also, when I watched your video on the house that had the bees in it for the 15 years, and it occurred to me that as we put bees up in our backyards or what have you, or on our property, that we have to give them a water source. And so I asked him, I said, do you have a water source for these bees? Why have these bees been here for 2 years? What is their water source? Their water source is his bird bath. He says they will line up all the way around the bird bath, and I'm thinking, well, maybe you need to take the bird bath, move it over, or put the nukes next to the bird bath, but give them a reason to want to go. And, you know, you couldn't you just, like, you know, one day go take a stick and, you know, like set up a new home for them and then just knock them off the...
If they're inside the soffit, you're not going to knock them down.
He doesn't have a soffit. It's an old house.
It's got the bird openings then.
No,
open rafters.
They're over on the corner where just the ends of the rafter comes out and it's filled up like this. So, you know, but I can't see. It breaks my heart to think that he would say, oh, well, I will have to dispose of them. I'm like, no, wait. You know, but anyway, I have great faith. I have great faith. Thank you very much.
All right. Jason Bragg, go ahead.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
Got a quick question.
Okay.
Installed a bunch of packages this week, and about 3 of them, now these packages had been setting for a little while, but about 3 of them, and these nukes were not close together, but about 3 of them, all the bees left those queens and maybe just left enough to cover the queen cage and went to the other nukes. Is that possibly because maybe there was something wrong with those queens?
Not really. If you had a bunch of dead bees in, did you set the package inside of a hive and then let them come out that way? Or did you dump them in?
I shook them in.
If there wasn't enough bees in there, or if they was already deteriorated, went through a heat, maybe they didn't clean out enough of the dead bees and the smelling there ran them off.
There was no other bees in there. These were new nukes.
Oh, I thought you talked about packages that you put in.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of dead bees in the bottom of the packages yet that I shook in.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and these nuke boxes were probably 10, 15 feet apart, and they, for some reason, left those queens with just enough bees to cover the queen cage, and all of them moved into another nuke.
I think if you bought nukes and you don't know the guy.
Well, there were packages.
Oh, packages. Yeah, packages will drift, especially if a lot of hives are in a straight row and all the same color. They will drift to the ends. You got 10 on a row, the ones on the ends usually get the strongest.
So even though they were, 10, 15 feet apart, it's still not uncommon for them to drift that far.
Sometimes on packages, you'll get some queens that are bred better, or sometimes you get some that, maybe it wasn't bred, and then the virgin queens is not going to attract all them extra bees.
See, that's kind of what I was thinking, is maybe there was something wrong with those couple queens, because all those bees left and they didn't go to the end. They went in another box of another package that I dumped, and now that box is, absolutely boiling over with bees.
If the bees if the queens are not out of the cages, I would take and go to that real strong hive and make sure that the queen is still in that cage. I would shake some of the bees back in with that queen there, and I'd put a screen over the opening and put a frame of honey in there or put a feeder on them.
Okay.
That way, maybe they'll stay.
Okay. I'll try that.
Sometimes it's just a not well-mated queen. Sometimes it's just drifting. It's hard to tell on packages.
Okay. I'll give that a try. Thank you.
There you go.
Robbie, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. yesterday we just put a package of bees in a hive. We have 2 packages of bees. One box, the bees are flying in the front. Another box, they're flying in the back of the box. I don't know why.
You got boxes the same color?
They're camouflaged.
Camouflaged? Maybe they can't distinguish where they're going.
They're lost.
Move them further apart.
Well, it's hard to say why they'd go the back. If you dump them in, they'll come out the opening and then orient to that opening. That's the only thing I know. If they're going around to the back side, maybe they're drunk.
Are they trying to get in the back of the box, Robbie?
Well, I didn't really look real close. It's real wet, and it has its fence on that side. So I don't know.
Is it a lot of bees or 10, 15, 20?
Plenty.
A lot.
A lot.
Do you have a screen bottom board?
Yes.
I'm guessing, this happened to me 2 years ago, I'm guessing your queen is outside and they're clumping on her, and she's on the bottom. So you're going to want to scoop all those bees up and dump them back inside. That's probably what's going on.
Okay. Well, I have a statement now. My uncle Tony has honeybees. They made it through the winter. He lives in Pennsylvania. They're dead because of bear attack.
How to prevent a bear attack?
My uncle?
Yeah.
His house got attacked by bears.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they just want to eat honey. You got to set them up high.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Yeah.
Or do the electric fence thing. I know a lot of people up in the woods and mountains do that. So, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Darlene, you're up.
Thank you very much. So I should on the friend that has the bees up in the second story in the corner, that he should go up and check his attic, right, and see inside just to make sure that they're not on the inside of anything.
If it's an older style house, they have a blocking goes across the top of the top bar there, the top piece. And so it blocks the animals and stuff from getting in. And the old style houses just got the ends of the rafters sticking out and they're open. I would think they're hanging right in there.
They might
unless there's a small hole and they've got inside, and what you see on the outside could be just excess.
Right, that's what I'm thinking too. That would be a good idea, because I'd hate to see them have to go to such extremes. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Well, looks like we're all caught up on questions. We got about 6 minutes left. Anybody else have any other questions? Get them in now. No?
Everybody's shy tonight.
Everybody just wants to listen to your wise wisdom, Don.
I don't know about that.
Oh, Paul's back. Go ahead, Paul.
Don, on the first hive body, I don't have any vent hole on the top. But when I add my second hive body, I want to drill a hole, and I know you were saying above the handle, I believe it was?
Below the handle.
Below the handle.
If you put it above the handle, when you reach over to get a hold of it, the hole will be right in your palm.
Okay, yeah,
that's why you want it below. But don't put another box on until the bottom box is pretty well full.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not adding another one anytime soon. But I just wanted to. That's a 1/2 inch hole is good enough, right?
I like the 3/4 to 1 inch.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, the more ventilation, the better off. It actually helps dry out your honey to cap it quicker.
And now, do you put any screening over that, or?
Some of the hives we do, and some we don't. And if you put a screen over it, use hardware cloth and staple it on the outside, not on the inside of the box. If you staple it on the inside of the box, when you pull a frame up, if it snags it, it could actually pull it out of your fingers and you'll drop a frame. Now, the feeders, we put our screens on the inside of the feeders because when you lift your lid up, you don't want your finger coming up and catching that screen. It'll get up under your fingernails. So that's the reason we put it on the inside of the feeder.
All right. That's
everything that I try to explain to you has got a reasoning behind it.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Joe May, go ahead.
Hey, Don, how's your queens doing about coming back? They doing good this year? Having trouble with them?
We're not really having much trouble with them. They're coming back, but the way the weather is, like it's pouring out there right now. We've got rain coming in almost every day, and it's been cold here, so we're getting a taste of winter back here again.
Yeah. I've had real good luck. I've had about 100% come back mated, but they're superseding about half of them for whatever reason and let them lay about 3 days and then make queen cells.
I don't know why they'd be doing that. Are you feeding them?
Oh, yeah, 2 to 1, all they can eat.
Well, see, we're not even feeding right now because they're backfilling. I mean, right now they're pulling in so much honey that as one bee hatches out, they're backfilling with honey.
Yeah. Well, it's rained here for 8 days.
Yeah. And well, that's probably why you have to feed them so much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're getting better. This week they've got back. About most of them come back mated this week.
I think once your weather gets to 75 and kind of stabilizes that and above, you have a lot better luck with them.
Yeah. Hopefully next week, because I'm going to do a bunch of grass next week.
Very good.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Steve Englert, go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep, we hear you.
Hey, Don, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Steve Englehart from Northeast Nebraska. I've been watching you on YouTube for over a year. I just want to say thanks for everything that you do. I really enjoy your chat, and I've got to talk to Joe May a few times. He's a really super nice guy, and I just wanted to introduce myself. That's basically it. So I just enjoy your chats and your meetings, and
I hope the information is saving you money and getting you ahead.
Big time. And the biggest thing is about the time I want to ask a question, somebody already asked it before I can even spell it out. So
well, that's a good thing, but you know, we try to answer everything here and get you on the right foot and get you going good.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for all that you do.
You're welcome.
Tim Harmon, go ahead.
Thank you. Got a question about frames. After you clean out the frames, scrape them, clean them, put them in Clorox water, how long do you let them air out before you use them?
Sometimes 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Okay, so it's okay to reload them with foundation and put them back into the hive?
Yeah, I mean, bees, they're going to swimming pools, and swimming pools has got basically chlorine in it, bleach.
That's a good point. I ain't thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, everything is basically common sense stuff, but we leave them, I mean, sometimes I'll leave them overnight in bleach water. I've had frames that are really old, 8 or 10 years old, and they get that dark color. I'll leave them soak overnight, and they look like brand new the next day.
Yeah, they looking real good, but I know I let mine sit, I think I did let one batch sit overnight. Yeah. And saturating the wood with that Clorox, I know it neutralizes itself after a while anyway, but I just didn't know if you let them set out a period of time or safe or if it would hurt them, but I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it don't hurt them one bit.
Thanks.
Okay.
Darlene, go ahead.
To Mr. Tim, and Don, setting the frames out in the sun, if you set them outside in the sun instead of inside, that dispenses the Clorox or the bleach faster, doesn't it?
Yeah, it will.
Yeah. And to Mr. Joe May, I graze upon, I haven't been invited to any of the chats on Friday night, but that's okay. Smart of them. But I wanted to know, I had the same question. Did Joe May ever get a queen out of that tree trunk that he had set up his box in front of and everything?
When he does, he's going to teach me how to do it.
I got a box full of bees. I did not get the queen, but I come home and put a queen cell with it. They now have a mated queen and laying, and I got a full hive out of it.
So maybe in another couple of months you can go back over that tree trunk and get another box of bees.
No, there was no bees coming back out of it. They were done. They wasn't coming in out of the funnel. So I closed it up. That's what the guy wanted. He wanted the bees out of the tree, and I'd done that. But the queen never came out.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope everyone has a good weekend.
Okay. And last call for the night, Pat Knight. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Don.
Hey.
We're in heavy nectar flow right now, and what do you do when the bees are backfilling the brood chamber with honey, and by the time the queen gets mated and gets ready to start, they've filled it all up with honey? Is there a way to stop that, or how do you fix that?
We're doing our out yards. We're actually running everything in double deeps right now, and we're checkerboard. We're putting 8 frames with starter ships, so when we take an 8-frame hive, we're putting 4 new ones at the bottom, 4 above. So we're actually doubling the brood chamber. So that gives them a place. And sometimes that don't even work. We've got a few hives that are in triple deeps right now. And the top, we're slowly taking the old stuff is full of honey or stretched out, and we're putting it on the 3rd box. So once it's capped, it'll be pulled out.
Okay. Need an answer. Okay.
All right.
Good night.
All right.
All right, then I think that'll call it a night for everyone.
Okay, everybody be sure to get here next week and get those questions ready.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Don. See you next week.
Appreciate everybody showing up tonight. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.